Good evening. Welcome to the Barbados Association of Guidance Counselors Week of Activities. This evening, for our panel discussion, we're going to be discussing Stronger Together, Helping Schools Thrive. The Barbados Association of Guidance Counselors, BAGC, is a non-profit organization which was established in 1988. Our membership comprises of certified and trained mental health professionals who are guidance counselors in public and private schools, as well as tertiary institutions. So that's the secondary and tertiary institutions. Our vision is to deliver quality leadership in facilitating health and family life education, social and emotional learning, and guidance and counseling to our students. Simultaneously, we provide individual and specialized support to members. The motto of our association, Together, Let's Make a Difference, drives our team of counselors who are committed to upholding the high ethical and professional standards established. This week of celebrations, being one of the first of its kind, we, the members of the association, are very happy to participate and connect with you. The association consists of approximately 29 or so counselors, all from secondary or tertiary schools in Barbados. Today, our panel consists of our current president, Ms. Shernell Clark, a past president, Miss Margaret Grant, and one of our male retired members, Mr. Saul Leacock. He has a special title here today, representing all the guys. Annually, we plan, coordinate, and implement a few other activities: the National Career Showcase and the Summer Work Experience Program. These signature programs benefit thousands of students and involve numerous professionals from local, regional, and international agencies. Now let's hear a little bit more about each of these panelists. We have Ms. Margaret Grant. She received her formal education at Ellerslie Secondary School and Barbados Community College, the University of the West Indies, and further studied in the University of Southern Mississippi, USA. Ms. Grant would have been the course coordinator in health and family life education at the University of the West Indies Open Campus and a part-time tutor at Earlston Teachers Training College. Mrs. Grant has been the counselor at the St. Michael School for the past 35 years, where she developed programs such as the Elaine Model, which is a comprehensive orientation program, student support programs for repeats, and several self-development worksheets. She has been a two-time president of the Barbados Association of Guidance Counselors and has served on the executive in other capacities. For several years, Mrs. Grant has served as a resource presenter on topics dealing with transitioning through secondary school, self-esteem building, developing self-directed study skills, and the list goes on. I want to break and allow Ms. Grant to tell us a little bit more about one or two of her programs that she would have participated in. Mrs. Grant?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. One program that is really dear to my heart is the ELAN model, which is the orientation program. I do believe that much more emphasis needs to be placed on transitioning from primary to secondary school, and by extension, transition throughout secondary school. But the ELAN model really helps children who are new to secondary school to have a seamless transition, as seamless as possible, recognizing that they're coming not only with their different experiences, but they're also coming with various emotions. And it is about helping them to manage those emotions so that as they start the secondary school, nothing would impede their academic progress or even their social settling in. Okay, so I would just mention the EDM model, the orientation program at this time.
Yes, it seems as if you are very much involved in the transition for
Yes.
the students from primary to secondary, from secondary to tertiary, and I recognize that you are very much involved that way. We also have with us the current president of the Barbados Association of Guidance Counselors. Shernell Clark has been a Christian and member of the Fustic Wesleyan Church since 1994 and a vocalist with the New Connection Gospel Band since then. Wow. A vocalist. Should I ask Sister Shernell to render a song? No, I would not. But I know that she is quite capable. Shernell is a NIFCA multi-award winner, having won silver and bronze medals for her performances. She has also been a judge for numerous talent shows, singing competitions, and pageants. Shernell has been a teacher for over 23 years, initially teaching English, religious education, social studies, and health and family life education. She holds a master's degree in educational psychology, a bachelor's of arts in psychology, and a diploma in educational leadership, as well as in English. As well,
A diploma of education.
yes, I am going to stop talking so you can finish it up. You know better than I do, right? Mrs. Clark, a Coleridge and Parry alumna. Tell us a little bit more, something that you are passionate about from all your experience that you have gone through.
Okay, good evening, everyone. As a teacher, guidance counselor, I am one of those persons who enjoy working with young people. And so at some point I had an organization called Yes She Can, and a girl empowerment movement that was really to encourage young girls to become the best version of themselves.
Wonderful.
And as a person, a young lady, and seeing how young girls go sometimes, we often think that it is the boys who are in crisis, but we know very well that girls are getting into as the Bajans would say, getting into the do. So I think that all young people need that help, that guidance. And so working as a teacher for these past almost 24 years now, I think that allows me, or that affords me the opportunity to be able to impart knowledge on them, yes, but to make a significant impact on them, to encourage them to not go in the wrong direction, but also to give them the necessary skills that they need to have in order to navigate these rough waters of life. Yes.
Okay. And we have the rose between the two roses. We have Brother Saul Leacock. He's a trained teacher for 41 years, and he's a qualified social worker. He was a former guidance counselor at the Darrell Jordan Secondary School and holds a master in education psychology in that section. a Christian and minister of religion, director of Impact Family Services. I'm going to ask him to tell us a little bit about his services, the Impact Family Services. You want to give us a little light on that?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My passion, first of all, is to help bring about change in students.
Yes.
And as Chanel said, we are here to help them navigate their social, emotional, career, and behavioral life, as it were.
Yes.
But in the Impact Family Counseling Services, seminars I open to conduct, which I offer motivational and attitude change, marriage and family life, as well as parenting, adolescent issues, and professional development in general. But for counseling, marital, premarital, child, adolescence, psychological, pastoral, drug counseling, as well as grief and bereavement. Wow. So I offer a variety of them and open for appointments, and we get a lot of success. Individual or cases or family conferences.
Yes.
But the aim is to help, to reach out, to bring about change.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Leacock.
Thank you.
Now, I recognize from the introductions that all three of the counselors before me are still family people. How do you juggle that? I'm seeing so many things here. How do you juggle this life, helping all these families, but you have your own?
Yes.
You want to start, Mr. Leacock?
Well, we start off the day with the family in terms of family prayer or family worship,
Yes.
so that everybody goes their way with divine protection and guidance.
Oh, yeah.
And then we do have family discussions. We hardly have conflicts where we involve family conferences. I guess everybody knows their role, and there's obedience, respect, compliance. I have two young men, 34 and 33. Both of them are still at home, and they are very cooperative. They know how to do all the stuff on their own, the cooking and everything.
That sounds like a hard Mr. Leacock.
yeah.
Let's not do that.
So me and my wife connect when I have to take her to work. We discuss so many things while in the car.
Yes.
So the car is our togetherness time going,
Yes.
and then coming back as well from work.
Okay.
So we discuss a lot of issues, school issues, as I was a former teacher as well, and challenges and so on. So, and then we spend, Saturdays together at church as family. So everybody has their own role, but we know the part that we are to play.
Okay.
Connecting and becoming acquainted with God and His Word and developing in oneness and being able to make a positive contribution and impact upon church, community, anywhere like that, work life.
Sounds good. Yeah. What about you ladies? How does your family life impact you helping all of these other families? Is it something you have to juggle, or are you able to manage the two?
Sometimes you have to compartmentalize in order to give the attention that your family needs.
Oh, yes.
Because you can get so engrossed in the work life, the things that are needed for the work life, that you neglect to give the attention that is needed to your own personal life. So for me, I used to be, well, I still am going all the time. But sometimes I have to shut off the work side of me and do the mother side of me the church side of me and every other side of me that has to be packed into my life as a guidance counselor, as a mother, as a worshiper, all those things. So you just have to compartmentalize some things, and that goes to taking care of your well-being, because if you don't do it, if you don't shut off sometimes, you'll find that everything becomes muddled and then you're burned out completely. So it leaves, you have to leave room for the things that, the other parts of your life that do matter.
Understood.
I think it's a matter of setting boundaries,
Yeah.
recognizing that you are one person, but it's just like if you have tentacles to
Oh, yes.
help in every area. When it comes to managing children, my children are 2 young adults right now. Like Saul's, they're in their 30s, and I now have a little granddaughter, 1 year old.
Oh, nice.
So my life is more about making sure that what I try to tell other children, that I model it
That's right.
in my home,
In your own home.
so that my counseling or my work life is just an extension of who I am at home. So in terms of juggling, yes, you must be conscious about that, because I find that because I enjoy counseling, because I enjoy doing that, I may not even realize that it is taking up so much of me and so much of my time,
Yeah.
that even though they're grown persons, they still need some of me. So
Yes.
I live with that consciousness that my children, though they're grown, young man and young woman, they must still have a part of me from time to time. And we do have a good relationship, I would say. We discuss, things every day and crack jokes, this
Yes.
or another. So we have some fun.
Oh, wow. I hope the children didn't hear that.
They would be nodding.
All right. I am Jacqueline Blendman. After we've learned about the 3 counselors, I just remembered that I didn't say who I was. I am also a counselor. And listening to the input that has been given so far, I can completely agree. Right? I don't have 33-year-old children. I don't have any children. But I do know when my niece and nephew come and knock on my door, I better open up. Because they come straight, Auntie, we coming in your bed.
Okay.
Sometimes I have no space. But the young people are reaching out, and we have to remember that. They're reaching out, and they want the assistance. And as counselors, we want to be stronger together, helping schools, families, homes, helping all of, especially the youth around us. We want to extend a helping hand to help them thrive. And that is our theme that we are focusing on for this year for the Guidance Counselors Association. Stronger together, helping schools thrive. Now, good question here. Why did you choose? You think there was a reason? One reason why you chose this profession? Why did you choose this profession? Anybody can go.
I'll go. I think when I was, as far as I can remember, when I was going to school, I wanted to be a teacher. And I know that being a teacher means more than just standing in front of the children in the classroom, but it means caring for the students that are before you.
Yes.
And spending those years in teaching and with students coming to talk with me and having to see children beyond the classroom, because I do work outside of the classroom with the children in terms of the choir and other activities. So I realized that I realized that my calling was more so counseling than, well, I wouldn't say than teaching, because as a counselor we still have to teach.
Yes.
So the two go hand in hand, and that was my reason for going on to study to be a counselor, a guidance counselor in the schools, where I will have the space to do such. Because as a teacher, I don't have my own room. I don't have any place private or anything like that. I didn't have that, when the children would come to me to talk. So seeing that they were coming to me to talk more than just about schoolwork, I think that was a driving force from behind me going in the direction of becoming a guidance counselor. That need to help, that need to offer the listening ear, that need for confidentiality and such like.
Okay.
Well, actually, I wanted to be a linguistic interpreter initially.
Whoa.
Spanish or French
Oh,
or
you
my
speak
favorite.
some languages.
Yes, my mother was Spanish, Colombian born,
Nice.
and I learned French at school.
Wow.
But when I studied my future, I thought the best area to get into was helping profession.
Okay.
It would awaken sympathies in you, and it would also be a way of reaching out, touching the lives of people. So I enrolled in teaching in which I made I believe over the years, a very good impact. Up to now, some of my students still remember me and some of the lessons I would have taught
yes,
them.
they do.
And in different strata of society now. And then, so I went on to do social work because
Okay.
we didn't grow up rich, and I thought about people in need and how we could make a difference in their lives. So enrolling in guidance counseling helped to broaden my scope in terms of the ways I can help people. And that is why I went into the area of psychology, social, emotional development, behavioral, and attitudinal change, and that kind of thing. And being a minister myself, and also ministering in that capacity, helping individuals to bring about attitudinal and behavioral change. And I found that I may have gone apart from Barbados, doing seminars in Antigua, Jamaica, St. Lucia, and others. And I believe in the principles of reaching out to make a difference and bring about positive change, because people are looking for help. They need guidance.
Oh, yes.
They need direction. And you see all the young people and the crime and so on, and that's the product of not getting adequate guidance, direction, or of making wrong choices in life. And many of them are using permanent solutions for temporary problems.
True.
And they just want to belong to a gang or group or something like it. And that is what motivates them. And plus it comes with some financial perks. With it. So who's to say that young people don't need guidance? They need guidance.
They do.
And they need help, especially in those areas. So I'm offering myself in that area to help bring about a change, to seek to make an impact upon, and that's the name of my services, Impact Family Counseling Services, to make a
Okay.
difference and to
Yes.
bring about change. That was what motivated me and still motivated me up to now.
Wonderful. I hope some of the outside agencies are listening as you offer to help the young people, because we can see that in Barbados right now we do need extra hands on
Yes.
deck to assist them. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I always wanted to be a teacher or work in a bank.
Ooh.
But the teacher was more so because I had liked correcting books and
Oh.
passes. Not as a child.
As a
certain
child. I
things
remember playing that
fascinate you.
game. Correct.
And-
Correct.
But we used to play
Accent too.
school.
Yes.
We play school
Yes.
and church,
Yeah.
And I remember when I finished school, I started to teach. And when I finished community college, I started to teach. And in teaching, my areas were Spanish and art. And as I got older, it was either being an artist or an interpreter. But when I went to UB in Barbados here, they didn't have that kind of program to lead towards interpreting. So it was directed towards history, Spanish, and sociology, which helped me to really develop my passion then for the helping profession. But as I went into teaching, I got to realize that one day I realized that some of my brighter students in the Spanish were dropping back. And I would always look through children's books when I'm correcting them. And I saw one child had, I'm going to run away from home. I called her, spoke to her about it, and Then she allowed me to know all of these different problems that she was having.
Oh.
And I would meet with her. She would come to me at lunchtime and I would talk with her. And then she started bringing her friends and all these problems. And I was like, my heart went up to these children.
Understood.
And I said, you know what? I would like somebody else to do the teaching and I would do the counseling. And from there, I started looking towards going into counseling. And it so happened that there was an art scholarship that was being offered. And when I went to get it, I was in my final year at UE. And you had to write this 200-word essay in Spanish. And I was into my exams. And I said, no, I don't have time for that. And the guy said, maybe this you would be interested in this. And it was the CIP program, the Council of International Programs, where it was encouraging youth leaders, social workers, etc., to come to the U.S. for 4 months or a year. And they will put you in a setting that is similar to what you do at home. But I was teaching, they put me in a social work agency.
Okay.
And I was able then to work with pregnant teens, and the rest is history. When I came back to Barbados, then it was into counseling, and I am really pleased with the work that I was able to do, the number of students I was able to help, and it really, I thank God for that opportunity.
Wonderful, amen. Let me squeal on Margaret a bit, because one of the guys helping us here this evening, he was so excited to hear his counselor from his school was coming here. Okay? So it means that, Margaret, these children ain't forgetting you at all, right? There's sometimes you go here, there, and the children remember, the children appreciate all that we have done so far, because there's still a lot more to be done. Okay, now let's go into counseling directly in Barbados. All right, and we know that we didn't always have counseling in our schools. Okay, we know that it started probably in the 80s, around there. And why did we develop this program in our schools in Barbados? Do you remember? Can you give us some information on why the guidance counselor system this was put into the secondary schools in Barbados? Anybody can?
I think we might need to go back a little bit further.
Yes.
Where around the 1960s, there were teachers who volunteered. Even though they were assigned to teach certain subjects, they volunteered to teach vocational guidance. At that time, it was called vocational guidance.
Okay.
Here in Barbados, we have people like Ada Strong,
Yes.
who can tell the story because she was one of the persons there, and she was also one of the persons who was sent abroad to study, to be trained in
Yes.
guidance and counseling. So in the 1960s, you had teachers who volunteered, gave of their time to really, and talent, to really work with students in terms of vocational guidance. But
Okay.
then as time went on, we realized society changed. Challenges emerged, more challenges emerged.
More challenges.
Teenage pregnancy was on the increase, and a number of other issues, social issues were there. And I think that's one of the reasons why we then had the push. Plus two, America, they were all into the guidance program.
Okay.
And it was becoming like the obvious choice. The obvious alternative, because we did recognize in Barbados that our children needed more than just the academics. We recognized that they needed life skills. They needed to know how to make decisions, how to solve problems, how to have refusal skills, how to be resilient. All of those are skills that are not taught from the textbook, but from a practical perspective. So guidance emerged as family life education. At that time it was called family life education. And they will focus on such things like self-esteem and all those other life skills, and then also career counseling. But then in 1988, that is when the guidance counselors were officially placed in secondary schools, public secondary schools in Barbados. So you had, all the secondary schools in Barbados had at least one guidance counselor. assigned by the Ministry of Education.
I was attached to the St. Lawrence Composite School, and quickly I became the guidance teacher. And because I was connecting with students a lot, some of them weren't far from my age. I was a new teacher there at the time. And having read much, I believe in the principle that you must connect before you correct. So I sought to go
like
about
that.
connecting with students and getting them to open up to me. But guidance was, as a guidance teacher, family life education became part of the subject curriculum I was teaching. So obviously the children would connect with that and ask questions and so on. So they kept me pretty busy, as it were. That was students. I was teaching in the junior section. Then it was transferred to the senior section.
Senior school.
It was one of those senior composite schools that was a experiment at the Ministry of Education at that time.
Okay.
For the Ministry of Education. And I was told afterwards that I was, by education officer, that I was that they needed me to do counseling at about 5 schools.
Wow.
But my principal, bless his heart, even though he meant well, and he's now with DC, but he said no. He want me at St. Lawrence. That's where, and then when he fully became persuaded of the potential of extension, then he says, okay, but the majority of the time at St. Lawrence.
St. Lawrence, okay.
When he retired, I left there too. All right, he left, I left.
Wow.
But to pursue a course in social work, which is really my heart too, helping families in need,
Yes.
connecting them with relevant agencies and all of that, which is closely linked to guidance counseling,
Yes.
connecting students with agencies and resources that can help. And children have really been blessed, and they enjoy those intervention strategies, both in class as well as one-on-one, or even if we have to do case management,
Yes.
calling their parents and teachers that are dealing with them and try to trash out what may be causing them to behave certain ways. As I said, my strong point is more on attitude and behavioral intervention, because I know that many people want to change at heart. They mean well, but they just don't know how,
You don't know.
or they are governed by the social mores or
circumstances.
influences of
Yes.
significant others in their lives. And that is what creates problems even with them. Once they can find an avenue of making a little money, and they see their friends and significant people in their lives doing the same thing, they will gravitate towards that
Okay.
as well. So those were my beginnings, and up to from then till now, I still have fond memories of then, you know, helping students and so on. When I see them, they remember. I even belong to the old students, old scholars at St. Lawrence Campus.
Wow.
And they asked me, you know, to include me in there.
Include you.
And so
You
they
were
plan a
part.
lot of activity. We plan a lot of activities and so on
Nice.
to help students.
Okay.
So there's a lot.
So they still the students current the current students you still have a connection with them.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Because that's 1 or 2 classes where we had really good connection.
Okay.
And from then till now, even though they're overseas, some are here locally,
Yes.
I still remember them, they still remember me.
Wow, that's great.
In 1988, I was still in primary school. So
I'm sorry, Sherda.
I do not remember anything of this, but I do remember my guidance counselor at the Coleridge and Parry School, Ms. Cheryl Griffith then, which she's now Cheryl Rose, and she was the first and she was the only guidance counselor that the Coleridge and Parry School had up to, that was 2000 and, what that was? I think
That was about
2020.
or 20.
2022. I think she
Yeah.
retired in 2022. So, I mean, she did a very good job coming, as I was a student at the school. Perhaps, you never know, I can't remember back then, but perhaps she may have been a very good influence,
influence.
a strong influence on my wanting to be a teacher or even being a helper to other persons.
Probably.
Yeah.
I remember while I was at school, my counselor was Miss Otley. Miss Otley at Queen's College. And I could never understand why she wasn't our counselor, but she was always bubbly, always moving, always involved, always, and she didn't forget my name. That's one thing I always remember. She wouldn't call me another name. She knew my name, and she was always present. I thought she used to be stalking us, but she was very, that's one thing, she was very pleasant. And that made our life a little easier at school. And I always wanted to be a teacher, but when I found out about counseling, then I remembered, some of my past teachers who left an influence on me and how I felt. I said, these children need this. The children I am now teaching, they need to feel.
Yeah.
They need to know somebody is there to help. Somebody is there to listen. Somebody is there to help you get around certain situations. And some of them might not go home and find that all the time. So we fill in that space for them. All right. So what was the role? What was the role of the guidance counselors initially? Was it just carry some food for a child, or was it as intense as some people make it out to be? What did you start out being asked to do in your role as of the guidance counselor?
There are certain guidelines that were set out by the Ministry of Education, and it included a 4-pronged approach where counselors were supposed to do social, personal, career planning, and educational planning. So you have personal and social development, career and educational planning.
But that sounds like about 4 people job there.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, and then also teach health and family life education. So those are 5 prongs there.
Right.
Yes. But the thing about it is that Barbados used what was called the MYRICS model. The same model that ASCA used. ASCA is the American School Counselor Association.
Yes.
They developed their model using the MYRICS model, which
Okay.
suggests 1 counselor to 250 students. We understand that
Yeah.
Barbados was, we adopted that, but I don't know in which school we can actually say that the model actually exists.
No, wow.
Yes, because we started out with one counselor to a school, and there are some schools that had over 1,000 children.
Yes.
So therefore, obviously, we start out on the wrong foot. Overpopulated,
Overpopulation.
and therefore the counselor obviously would not be able to do everything that he or she was supposed to do.
Right.
But having those in place, having those broad categories in place, you then break it down, because those categories now will be within what we had as the guidance program. There was a guidance, it used to be called guidance at the time.
Yes.
And the children, you would have guidance classes throughout the school. It was also infused in other subjects as well, because obviously they realized that the counselor could not teach everything and still manage an office. So it was infused in subjects, but then we got some pushback from that, because then teachers were not able to get on with their syllabus as they would like. Because obviously, as you know, when you start to discuss certain guidance topics, it involves a lot of discussion and evokes a lot of participation from students, and teachers still have a syllabus to follow. Yes? So that was a little pushback there, until eventually they had health and family life education as a standalone subject.
Okay.
But with that came the whole thing about who's going to teach. The council then could not teach it if it was being held throughout the school. So you had to then get teachers who were interested and teachers who were trained to teach health and family life education to help with the load. Right?
But I could teach. Anybody could teach health and family. Why I need to be trained? Why would I need to be trained?
There's some topics that some people are sensitive to.
Yeah.
Yes.
When it comes to sexuality, there are some people who will not
Especially.
touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Correct.
And therefore, you also need people who would not see it as a free subject, a free period,
That's
but
the
who would be
issue.
passionate about it.
Right.
Because you're dealing with people's lives, you're dealing with people's emotions, you're dealing with people's goals, and therefore, health and family life education is not a mixed sport subject. It's a very serious subject, and therefore should be held in high esteem, whoever is managing it. So you have to be empathetic, you have to be able to deliver.
Yes.
You know, you have to be able to use different methodologies
Yes.
so that the children can actually practice the life skills as the lessons are taught. So any and everybody can't teach it, and therefore
You have to
training is
train.
necessary.
Train.
Training
Yes.
is necessary.
What Margaret said just now about, persons not seeing it as a free fall subject, and it is just a free subject, and that it should be taken seriously. Now, Saul mentioned earlier about the ills in our society. And we want to pretend, or people don't see the value of health and family life education. But within that subject, we teach them life skills, how to resolve conflict, how to recognize when something is going wrong. Those different things those soft skills that they call them, that are needed. Because you have a society now where, as Saul said, they're using long-term or permanent solutions for temporary problems. And I don't think that people recognize the value of the health and family life education program in schools, where it is not just come and let me sit down and talk about sex. That's not what it is. It's so much more than just that, right? And that is where this whole theme of guidance counselors helping schools to thrive. If you don't have persons who are generally well-functioning people, you're going to have problems in the school. So we need to take it more seriously. And I would like to see the day that we have dedicated health and family life education teachers, not teachers that it's going to be placed on their timetable to fill up a space.
That's correct.
That's when it becomes a nuisance to some teachers, and they just use the reality of it is that some teachers use it as another lesson to teach their subject, and that is wrong. We have to get to the point, if we want to address a lot of the ills in our society, we have to get to the point where we're taking those so-called soft skills more seriously and teaching our young people how to resolve issues amicably, how to resolve issues without wanting to fight, and all the other things that we need to address.
I agree.
The health and family life education program comes strictly under the guidance counselor's portfolio.
Yes.
And he has about in my case, it was 5 or 6 teachers who help. So I would have meetings with them. I would share the subject areas and resources where they can capitalize on. But that would address a number of areas such as academic, because, the children are attached to school and they have to be able to thrive academically.
That's right.
But there are some factors which can stagnate their development. It may be home influences. It may be a case of being bullied at school or other ways. It could be issues of conflict resolution within the home or at school. And many of the students who are at risk in terms of their behaviors, they need to be addressed as well. Conflict resolution, anger management, child abuse. We've had a number of cases dealing with child abuse. And I have some that can cause your head to grow, child abuse. And topics like HIV, AIDS, sexual harassment. Some of my students, and most schools, students get harassed. Violence and aggression, drug awareness, peer pressure and how to handle it, and decision making and refusal skills. But this program is, as Margaret said, was delivered through interactive group discussions.
Yes.
And it is more timetable, 10 periods a week. All the other times are one-on-one, case management,
Yes.
or having to run to a home visits. All of those. I mean, some people don't like that area, but you can use a variety of methods in seeking to convey some thoughts and values to the minds of children, like interactive group session, video presentation, role playing, drama, stimulating talks by other guests and resource personnel within or without the school community. So the guidance counselor's hands are full.
Very full.
If he doesn't have meetings with the principal or the deputy or even teachers, they're supposed to have developmental seminars, even for teachers.
Oh, yeah.
And teachers come to the office in order to refer students and all of that, and the list goes on. So children are facing a lot. They need somebody strategically put in place to deal with that. As I said, that's the area where I enjoy. Even though I used to do career development,
Yes.
I would prefer dealing with at-risk behavioral challenges in students as well.
You mentioned home visits. That's part of the curriculum. Is that part? Does it say that to me that as a counselor I have to go around the bend, up the hill, cross the gap, and visit that child?
Cross country.
Yeah.
Well, trained as a social worker, and also a guidance counselor,
Yes.
I see that if a problem is stemming from the home, and if the home influences are impacting negatively on the child's
Okay.
development, academic or attitude or whatever, then I need to go to the parents where they are. Sometimes they can't make it, so I got to see the factors that are impacting on them negatively. It may be welfare issues.
Yes.
Because some children may not have lunch, food, breakfast. That can affect their learning. So I have to inquire about those issues. That's where the welfare, social
But that
welfare
still
issue
happen?
kick in.
I
involves
want the
risk, yes.
listeners to hear all of that still happens, or that's something from back in the
That still
day.
happens.
It still happens.
Yeah, I
Some
want
children
them to
are
hear.
abused.
Yes.
So you got to go into the home to address that.
Yes.
Where their conditions, the way they come to school, dress, how they smell, how they look, and sometimes they become aggressive and they are fighting. So you have to be able, and when you address it in the home, the parents can more cooperate with you because you show the
Yes.
interest
Yes.
to going where they are. And that's one of my principal philosophies in life. The first principle of fishing is going where the fish are. The fish are not going to come to you.
It's
And that
true.
is why I like doing seminars outside. Students aren't going to come to me. I go into school.
You go
The
to see
inmates or
them,
the
yes.
prison aren't going to come to me. I have to go to them. And the aim is to make an impact with them where they are because they are busy doing their activities.
Yes.
So the aim is to help the parent, give them guidance right within the home, how to deal with the children and have a session with them and the children
Yes.
together.
Anybody else? You can't.
It's a whole systems approach.
Yeah.
Because counseling a child, you're actually entering his or her world.
Yeah.
And in entering his or her world, you need to find out who are the people in his inner circle.
Yes.
Who are the people who are antagonizing him or her? Who are the people who are his support? You know? And sometimes, as Saul said, some parents might not be able to come to see you. They might have a young child at home. They might be pregnant. They might not even have the bus fare to come.
Right.
So you go to see them, and at the same time, you get to see the child's room, get to see what conditions they live under. And as you enter their world, you get a better understanding
Yes.
as well. Okay? And then you can then reach out and give the necessary support. And in that way, you're building home-school partnership, which is
Partnership.
critical in any case management.
Yes, I like that word partnership because what was the Latin that they give us? Parental.
Locals.
Local parental.
Yeah, local parentis. I feel Latin. Okay, but it's communication. We have to be able to visit and to talk to parents, whether it's a
And
auntie.
significant others in their life.
Yes, significant.
Because sometimes it
people.
don't always call for the parents.
It's
Because the parent
true.
may not have any influence over the child. I
Yes.
ask for significant individuals in the life of the child who they look up to and respect.
Yes.
Maybe an aunt, maybe an
Maybe
uncle.
auntie,
And those are the
uncle.
ones they want to come.
Okay.
Not the mother so much or the father who don't have an influence.
Understood.
And that makes a direct impact upon them.
So how a female, I ain't going at nobody house when the dogs behind the paling barking. Females, how y'all, that's challenging. You feel you going to look for that child, or are we going to wait for the mother to come who never comes?
No, sometimes you have to go. It's because you have to do a needs assessment too.
Yes.
In certain cases, you have to do a needs assessment. So you want to see for yourself what is happening in their sphere of the world. Because some of them then come to school and some of them pretend very well too.
Oh yes.
So you have to go to where they are and see what it's like in their world. It might very well be a lot different from what they might portray.
Oh yes. And children usually have good acting skills, and sometimes we judge because they're clean.
Yes.
Their hair is done well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? But there's still problems there that might be, interfering with their learning, interfering with their socializing, and sometimes the counselor does have to take somebody in their vehicle and travel to another area.
That's the part that a lot of people don't know as well. You brought that up just now about us taking students to the polyclinic or the hospital.
Yeah.
I remember one time I had to leave my car at work and ride in the ambulance to the hospital with the child until their parent arrived. Spent a good few hours till the parent came.
Yes,
With the child. And fortunately, one time, the principal, he came to collect me, to take me back. That happened at least twice. So there are things that we do that people don't necessarily know because we don't jump up and advertise it.
That's right.
But yeah, the counselor has to be that one that will go with the child to the hospital more often than not.
Oh yes.
I remember watching a short video of a young chap who was coming to school late every morning. And every time he came to school, he would get punished with a ruler in his hand. Mm-hmm. But one day, the teacher decided that he was going to go and check out where the child lived and observe the child when he leaves home. And then he saw the child taking his grandmother or mother who was handicapped at the time. They call it physically challenged now.
Yes.
To the home.
Out there. To the home.
After doing a whole set of work the morning and then rushing back to get to school. And the teacher was so touched. Teacher got school before him. But when he came in and he opened his hand for punishment, the teacher put the ruler in his hand and opened his hand. He was the one deserving of the punishment, not understanding the life that child was going through and the amount of work the child had to do before. So some children come to school sleepy, sleep.
Yes.
Some truant because something may be happening at school.
Yes.
And they skip classes because they feel embarrassing or they can't read. And the list goes on in terms of some of the things that keep children away from school. Or they may be that bully waiting at the school for them to steal their money. You can imagine seeing a situation where the bell rang of a senior student taking a young boy, turning him upside down, shaking him, money drop him on the ground, took up the money and took the ZR van and was gone.
Wow.
Never saw a face. But some students would have seen.
Yes.
So that was reported and addressed, as it were. Those are the kind of things that we have to pay attention to.
Oh yes.
And Jackie, as Saul was mentioning that scenario where the teacher now might recognize that certain children may not be as open as they should be, or they might be displaying certain behaviors that are not positive.
Right.
And this is where now the consultation role of the counselor
Right.
has to come into place, because the counselor now, the teacher might come to the counselor to refer a student or to indicate that, hey, something might be, this child might need some help or some kind of intervention. And this is where now the counselor would act on that
Investigate.
referral.
Yes.
So also, what could also happen is that the counselor will need to also train teachers on the indicators
Yeah.
of certain issues that children might be going
Things
through.
to look out
So,
for.
right. So in terms of even, well, drug use, abuse, you know, even children being lethargic, children not having the utensils to be used in certain subjects, that might indicate a case of poverty, financial, is being financially disadvantaged. And then you might also have situations where children might have a body odor, things like that. They might not have any lunch, so they might be begging for lunch every day, or might just be saying, I don't like to eat lunch.
Yeah.
And this is where the perceptive teacher can actually make some kind of inroads and make a referral to the
So
counselor.
we have there's a system then
Yes.
for
School
between
year.
teachers and the counselor.
And there must be collaboration.
Yes.
The
Yes,
counselor
definitely.
cannot work on his or her
On
own.
That's
own.
right.
The
That's
counselor
right.
must work in collaboration
Yes.
with all the staff, teaching as well as non-teaching staff.
Okay. Tell me about the non-teaching. Listen,
They have eyes that we don't.
they see some things. I have a non-teaching staff lady there. Look, she teach me all of St. Joseph. She carry me here. Well, actually live there. You see around the bend there? That's where the brother live. And had not for her, I come from Christchurch. I didn't know they had some roads that I saw. And she's my second. I used to tell her that, come, we going on the road today. And I had to rely on her because sometimes the children, they're embarrassed and they don't want you to come to their house. And as a counselor, I recognize, no, I must be able to let this child know I can still come to you. You know, I don't mind. I don't mind. And sometimes when you tell them some of your background, oh, but I grew up in Eden Lodge too. Mom, you come from Eden Lodge. And then they then feel more comfortable and figure they could tell, come, Mom, I got something to tell you. And to me, that opens the avenue to be able to help them. And some of them really do need the help. Yes?
I was privileged having had my training in social work as well as counseling and psychology and a little psychiatry because I was attached to a psychiatric hospital at one point, but not as a more as a social work,
As a
psychiatric
worker,
social
as a
work,
worker.
where I was asked to facilitate 2 psychotherapy groups, manic
Okay.
depressive or bipolar and the schizophrenic.
All right.
And I really wanted to pursue that, but the counseling came up and I chose guidance
chose
counseling.
that. We're glad to have you.
Deep down, you got to know your heart calling.
Yes.
I could have gone into principalship because I was asked a couple of times. I don't like administrative work. I like helping on the ground, helping people.
Yes.
And so the 2 disciplines of counseling and social work were kind of intertwined with me.
Yes.
Because some of the same things the guidance counselors had to do, the social workers had to
Social
do.
worker.
That's why I was glad for the push,
Okay.
even from the association, the Social Work Association for social workers in schools.
Oh,
That can
yes.
help relieve guidance counselors of certain duties.
Certain duties.
I know they
Wow.
also have, we call those safety officers.
officer, yes.
And I like the idea of male and a female, because all the females may not want to go to a female.
It's
They
true.
may even
It's
prefer to
true.
go to a male.
Yes.
Some may prefer to go to a female than a male
Yes.
because of bad experiences. And some of the same referral system would go on. Guidance counselors refer people to the Child Care Board, Juvenile Liaison Scheme, Probation,
Yes.
Edna Nichols Center, or whatever. Some of the same agencies the social worker refers people to. So it is good when all work in collaboration, as Margaret said,
Yes.
towards helping students
Students.
holistic development. And they don't forget, Even if you help somebody by giving a $20 bill or $10 bill, when they leave school, they don't forget.
And don't forget, it's true.
Never forget when they had nothing to eat. You gave me. They remember those.
They remember those
You
times.
can't remember.
You understand? You there
don't
scratching your head. They give you money? What are you talking about? Yes,
Yes.
man, you remember that day? And I'm like, oh, okay. So many $20 I probably, assisted with.
That's right.
But they remember. They remember.
But the children do have challenges even at lunchtime.
Yes.
Because I've been observing when it comes to nutritional development. We have a school meals program. The guidance counselor is responsible for the school meals.
Yes.
Because children are embarrassed coming to school without. So we have it in a strategic location. They can even bring their own containers and they
Yes.
can go and eat it elsewhere. But children do have some embarrassing moments in terms
yes.
of what they've been born into in some cases. And you need somebody there to be able to help them. Guidance
yes.
counseling, comprehensive work.
And sometimes it's the whole attitude that I send off. It's the amount of compassion that I got boys that bigger than me, and they come and bounce me, and they know mommy ain't gonna cuff me hard. She might just cuff me soft.
That is why earlier I was talking about nutrition. I didn't follow through with that. Some children, when they go to the canteen, they just buy chips or pie, no greens, no vegetables, nothing. And I wonder what they eat when they go home. Probably the same thing.
Same thing.
So there's no nutrition for the brain. It's going to affect their academic and their learning. It's going to affect their behavior. It's going to affect their attitudes. Especially if they don't. Some of them try to save for cell phone. So they would just buy a Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Girls.
Or beg the other students for some of their lunch.
Yes.
We know. We know what they go through.
Boy. I watch a boy, he had a pocket full of change. I said, what you doing with all this money? Mama want to buy a phone. And he's counting and he's making sure nobody don't take his money. 'Cause everybody else has a phone. So mama, I need one too.
Those early days.
Yeah, man.
Jackie,
Yes.
sometimes too the counselors get some pushback
Yes.
from parents.
Yeah.
Where some
Yes.
parents recognize that they have issues, they have some challenges, but they caution the children not to tell anybody
Yes.
about their business, quote
Yes.
unquote.
Yes.
Yes.
And that child has to suffer quietly, right? So I think that one of the things the counselor has to do is to make him or herself known to parents and to let parents know that they're there for the safety of their children, not only physical but emotional and social safety of the child.
Right.
So that when parents recognize that we as counselors are there, it is not to get into their business. It is to understand the world that the child is living in.
Yes.
And to offer support. Okay? So I think if parents can understand that and appreciate that we are working together because the child is the common denominator here.
That's right.
Yes.
And we are just offering support. So when we discuss, when the child comes and tell us whatever the issue is, rather than condemn the child for doing that, applaud the child, because here is where now the counselor, being aware of the situation, can offer some help.
That's
And
right.
if the counselor can't do it him or herself, there might be some community agencies that they're affiliated with that they can
Yes.
actually refer.
Yes.
Okay, so it's just for parents to recognize that counselors are here to support your child. They're here to support you. Even sometimes some parents have challenges in terms of parenting. I know as children get into adolescence, more and more challenges arise in relation to the relationship between child and parent. And this is where, if counselors are in the loop, then they can actually offer some intervention, whether it be
That's right.
for family-oriented, or they might be able to refer.
Yes.
So
And here we see the
parents
relationship
take
again.
advantage.
Yes, parents,
take advantage
the
of the counselor at your
teachers,
school.
the counselors, the services that are being given now, put out there.
Yeah.
Is it different than when the services first started? Is it the same approach that we had when counselors were first placed in the schools? Do you think?
The challenges have broadened, and they are more challenging even for the students themselves.
Yes.
And therefore, guidance counselors have to adapt and improvise and a whole set of other strategies in order to meet their need. For example, you've heard the university, you've heard some people say the university do not really prepare people for the world of work. They give them knowledge, but then when they go, they don't know how to do certain things, even though they may be qualified. And that is where some schools, the school I was attached to, we had what we call a technical vocational program, CVQ and NVQ,
Yes.
where the students did masonry,
Skills.
carpentry, electrical installation, hospitality discipline, and the guidance counselor came in right in there to
Right.
do site visits, to see how they can monitor the students at where they're at and evaluate students on their job attachment program. And then also during the summer, we have summer work experience program.
Yes, that's
And
right.
sometimes we have job shadowing. So all of those are involved for their total rounded development so that they, when they leave school, even if they can't get a job, they know how to,
They know how to maneuver.
you know, make themselves available to make something.
So
I think back then as well, when counselors were officially placed in schools,
Yes.
it was a time when, people were not very warm to talking about their problems.
Right.
The Caribbean people were not about that. Caribbean people were more like, let my business stay in my house.
Yeah.
Okay? So when the counselor came on the scene, it took a lot of marketing
yes.
so that people understand. And you will have children not wanting to go to the counselor because they don't have any problems.
Yeah.
Or if they see a child in the counselor's office, oh,
the business.
that person has problems, or that child crazy. Many times I would be on corridor and children would be like, Mom, this body needs to see you, them crazy.
Wow.
And I would say, well, I'm not the person for that. I can refer them to someone who deals with that. But the point is, it is all about the perception of counseling at that time. It was not warmly accepted.
Received.
And because people handle their people were accustomed, according to them, handling their problems before. People were not accustomed talking. This talk therapy
Sharing.
was not a Caribbean thing at all. So those counselors back then had to navigate those turbulent waters. And they had
Understood.
all of those challenges to work with and work through at the same time. So I think now children are now more aware and parents are now more aware. The public is now more
comfortable,
aware.
yes.
Because there are more counselors even in public and private settings.
Yes.
And therefore people that would talk about going to a therapist openly now.
Yeah.
Years ago you would not hear anybody talking about that. So I think that people are now becoming more aware that, you know what, if I can get somebody to help me bear these burdens, if I can get somebody to help me show me the way,
Show me the way, yes.
if I can get somebody to support me in navigating these turbulent waters, then I will be able to surrender to them and help them. But it's all also about confidentiality.
Oh, yes.
Confidentiality is critical. And I think sometimes too, because our society is so close-knit,
yes.
everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that people were scared of as well. If I go and tell her my problems, would I hear it down the gap when I get home?
Oh, yeah.
Say counselors
You
tell
see?
their business.
So
Talk about
then
my
that is
business.
something that counselors have to make sure that they hold confidentiality as their hallmark.
Yes.
Nothing negotiable about confidentiality at all.
The council is very well confidential, but I think that sometimes children and people forget who they told
talk.
their
Yes.
information to. So the person that they're least closest to, probably being the counselor,
counselor.
that would be the person that would be the obvious person to point the finger at. But sometimes you have situations where a child is telling their friends about their situation.
Yes.
They come to you, and then they will probably hear it somewhere else, and they will tell somebody that the counselor taught their business.
Yes.
And that's not the case. it probably could be one of the persons that they were talking with, and we know that some people aren't friends. They don't keep.
They don't keep.
Then also people don't understand what confidentiality is
That's
and
true.
its limits.
Yeah.
Once it is a threat to life, health,
Yes.
property, it no longer confidential.
No.
It has to be reported to the police.
Yes,
It has to be
yes.
reported to the child care board. Because if you have a constant case of abuse,
Yes.
you have to
We
report
can't
it
keep
because it's a threat
No.
to the life, health, and happiness even of the child.
Yes.
So it has its limits.
You're very right. Only this week I heard a child saying to another one, "You can't say that. Somebody can talk out your business." So I turned the same time. I said, "But if you are being harmed, I can't sit back and know. I won't sleep. I won't sleep that
Yes.
night.
Yes.
I will be thinking, suppose something happened with John or Mary, and it's going through my head. So my next move will be to report
Yeah.
or to find help, at least to get somebody to attach to someone, attach you, the child or the family, somewhere that you can receive assistance. So it's not that I talking out your business. Is that I'm trying to find you a source of help. And that's one of the roles of the counselor. If I can't help, I try to attach you to an agency, a person, to Jesus. If we put that in there, I have to put it in there for you to get the road towards where you're getting this help from. Right? And that is one of the main duties or roles of the counselor, to attach each student that comes to us in need of help to a direct line to somewhere that I know. When I some nights I just got children, I see in their faces in my head, and I know as soon as I get up, all right, I got to do this. I write in, okay, I got to call this body. And these people have my number. So sometimes they call me before I get to call them.
Oh.
Yes? And that's what I see my role as, to be that connecting factor. If I can't help you directly, I must be able to direct you to a good source.
Yes.
To help you to be comfortable. I tell people I grew up good. I had problems, but I remember being happy as a child, running about, and I always say this, I had a good time. And I
Children
want my...
just can't say that.
That's
Some
it.
children that come to school afraid. Some are coming to school angry,
Wow.
under stress, and they don't know how to handle. Some are depressed, and they don't even know that it's depression. But they come school angry, and they let out the anger on others. They be stubborn
others.
against the teacher or call the teacher name, say it to the principal, whatever have you. But some of them, are coming from what we call a depressogenic environment, where there's a lot of fighting and quarreling and cursing
That's what
and
they're
name calling
seeing.
and all of that.
Yes.
And they just mimic what they see at home, the atmosphere that's within the home. And some of them like to compare and argue. I remember two children arguing, my father could beat your father.
Oh, wow.
And the argument ended quickly when the other one said, there's no problem, even my mother beat my father. So the domestic violence again came up. Domestic violence within the home.
Yes.
And the children have to come to school angry and upset. And sometimes when they come to the office, they sit down, they start to cry before they can even talk.
Yes.
I don't allow them. I remember a student having a conflict with a teacher, and the teacher brought him to my office and literally threw him in the air, and he landed in my office.
Wow.
And then he said he didn't want to talk with nobody. I said, no problem, you can relax,
Yes.
catch yourself,
Yes.
and I will let you go back. Because the other ways of solving problems,
Yes.
the child don't want to talk.
Sometimes you don't want
And then before he could even leave, he started talking angrily about the teacher. I said, but why? And he said this thing and the other. Why you did that and what you did? So he started talking. So, the same thing is true as Margaret said. Some people don't like going to counselor. Some people even have reservations about paying a counselor. You know, why do I have to pay you to tell you my business? Some people reason
Heard
like
it.
that.
I've heard it.
But now people are seeing it, you know,
Yes.
all wrong. They're getting help. Even when students would have lost a grandparent or parent, counseling help. And they came back to me and said, if I didn't have that counseling session with you, I would not have been able to handle myself at the funeral.
Yes.
So it's important.
It is. So what would you recommend for your school? We have counselors. We know their function. What would you, because we know they're necessary in the schools, would you as a counselor, would you change anything about counseling in your school or in your organization? Do you think that something else can be done in order to assist the students? My question crazy?
No.
I personally would like parent session, and I believe in parent education.
Okay.
I like going to PTAs and talk about parenting, child training.
Yes.
How are we doing it? Are we doing it right? What are some best practices that other parents can share and expose some of them to the challenges that you yourself face as a parent? Others will agree. And even the guidance counselor being allowed to speak at PTA meetings and at parent conferences and so on, sharing the wealth of their experience, knowledge, and resources. I would like to see more of that because many of the problems start from the primary socialization unit,
Yes,
which is the family. The attitudes, the behaviors, everything comes from the home. And some of it is like second nature to them. And they can't see anything wrong with what they are doing because they're accustomed seeing it in their home.
Seeing it, yes.
So we have to be able to show them that that is not acceptable behavior.
Yes.
And they fight against it too, especially if they're older. They think that you are talking foolishness, some children.
Yeah.
So being able to persuade them, but you can't persuade them unless you gain their confidence, admiration, and respect first. I remember when I was interviewed for the role at the school I was attached to, they asked me an important question. What would you do if you were selected as guidance counselor for the first 2 months? That was a good question, but I was ready for it. I said, if I were selected as guidance counselor for the first 2 months, I would seek to connect with the students. Because if you can connect with them, gain their confidence,
Yes.
admiration, and respect, you can get them to do anything you want.
It's true.
And if they feel that they can open up to you, that is a plus for you and in your role as guidance counselor.
guidance counselor.
But the guidance counselor may not feel comfortable coming to you. So what you should do is be able to defer or even delegate another teacher
Yes.
to be female, to be able, because in social work we learn about confront, transference, and counter-transference. I may look like an uncle that raped somebody. They may not want to come to
I
me.
hope not.
They would prefer talking to somebody else.
Yes,
So I have to be able to know
understood.
what are my limit and say, no, there's a case of transference or counter-transference
Yes.
and refer them.
And refer.
That all those are critical areas
Okay.
in counseling.
Oh, yes. Anyone else? What?
I think that one of the things, imagine you have a school with 6-year groups. Imagine 3 counselors at that school where one counselor is in charge of 2-year groups.
Yeah.
This is what I'm proposing.
Oh, yes.
This is what
I
I would like
like
to see.
this. I like this already.
One counselor to 2-year groups. Each counselor has his or her own office, and the school has a resource center. Because we recognize that children there are a lot of things now that are, children can do a lot of things on their own. You don't have to hold their hand for everything.
It's true.
So when it comes to career planning, I would like to see a dedicated career planning program in every school. Career planning should not be something that is talked about when it comes to options.
Yes.
Career planning should start from first form so that children start setting goals and working towards their careers. So when you do a career assessment, then also counselors should have access to free assessment, career assessments. Now, there are some
Yes.
online, okay? But it means then that children must have devices, they must have the internet, etc. And not every child has these things
That's
in
so
their
true.
home. So, if the counselor has, if there's a dedicated resource center at the school, fully equipped
Fully
with
equipped.
laptops,
Fully accessible.
and accessible to students.
Yes.
It can be run by students too, where the counselor does not have to be there, but everything is outlined and children can just go and access information about scholarships, information about planning their career. So if they do the career assessment, then the next step is to find out how am I going to get there. And if you have the resource center, well, then children can then it can be a step-by-step roadmap
Yes.
that they can actually follow, so that every child from first form has that in place. So they have that vision board, but it can be changed as they go through the
Yes.
school.
Yes.
Yes, because their interests might change, their strengths might change. So you can imagine you have the guidance counselor now who is responsible for 2-year groups. Obviously, they can connect with those children.
Yes.
Caseloads would be smaller. You can do more individual work. You can also do more group work. So
yes.
individual counseling and group counseling will be on the increase. You will have a more dedicated career planning program.
Yes.
You will have a better organized orientation program, because at every year level, orientation is important.
Yes.
It's a transition. And then you also have, we can create that atmosphere. I think a counselor is able to create the atmosphere, the tone of the school, add to the
tone.
tone of the school.
Yes.
Because when you encourage children to be empathetic, when you encourage children to care for each other, when you encourage children to be peer supporters or peer tutors, or, just helping big brothers or big sisters, what you're actually doing is helping these children to connect with each other.
Oh, yes.
And therefore, it would reduce the amount of bullying in schools. It would reduce the amount of fighting in schools. And children would just live together like one big happy family. Yeah? So I would like to propose those as some of the things that we can really
put in
look forward
place.
to.
Yes.
Because one counselor
No.
cannot manage it. Added to that, clerical assistants. Clerical assistants.
Voting for Margaret next year. Put my ex here. Yes.
Clerical assistants, where that clerical assistant is there to assist the counselor, because
This particular
even if
department.
you are digitizing things, you still need somebody to input the data in the
Yes.
computer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and for the counselor to do that, plus, sometimes the counselor might have a to-do list. I know of days when I had a to-do list.
And you never get it
And
done.
I see that to-do list the evening when I'm packing up.
Of course.
Exactly.
Because everything comes in and everything
distracts you.
You understand? So therefore, that is also important. And if then you can have then the HFLE program throughout the school,
Yes.
then you have trained persons to teach it. And, this is where now the climate of the school, the culture of the school, the tone of the school would change.
Yes.
Because you will have people who are emotionally intelligent working together. More children will be empathetic, and the tone of the school would change. Definitely.
I want to work at that school. I could see it now. I just got the vision, Margaret. I did. And
But it is money.
It
You see,
is.
sometimes we tend to think, we don't have any money for that. But when a crisis occurs, money arises. And if we can be proactive,
yes.
then I think that we can really do a lot better. A lot of problems can be solved. And right within our school setting, children will be helping children. And parents will be on board.
Parents will be
because
on
you would
board,
have
for
the
sure.
parent school, home school, community partnership
Yes.
going on. And we just need to have certain facilities in place and try to, because many of our children come to school burdened. They come
It's
to school
true.
burdened.
It's true.
So when they have all this emotional baggage on their back or in their heart, and they're still expected to come in and perform, it is hard.
It is hard.
It is really hard. And that's why many of our children now have a lot of cases of mental,
Disorders,
challenges.
challenges.
Mental challenges. And you have a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, because they don't have any outlet. They don't trust, And we need to really have that it's not just about academic performance. A proper school, a thriving school, cannot just push academic performance.
It's true.
They must push mental stability.
You're right.
All of that is important.
And since Margaret is on recommendation,
Yes.
that important, she mentioned more than one guidance counselor because, all right, many challenges that guidance counselors have to face.
Oh, yes.
Lack of parental cooperation, and the skills in dealing with emotional and behavioral problems in school, as well as the hectic schedules and work overload continues to increase the stress that is demanded of the guidance counselor. Documentation,
Wow.
report writing and filing can be time consuming.
Oh, yes.
And then you have the need for resources, which Margaret mentioned, and what might be area training in in-depth therapeutic and clinical intervention for behavioral and mental challenges. Because you know some children have mental challenges.
Oh, yes.
And we don't know how to deal with it. And if you put them on a list, they have to wait long before they get appropriate intervention. But those are some of the challenges, for example, that the counselors face and areas where improvement needs to be made. The legal right authorities, the authorities' powers that be need to look into it. And they've started the process in terms of safety officers
Yes.
and social workers, the push for social workers into secondary, but some especially at the
School
primary level.
counselors too.
Primary level.
Yes.
In Jamaica, every primary school has at least 2 counselors.
Wow.
I've been there because I've been into schools giving talks to students and also doing professional development seminars to teachers. And I was shocked to see that. But when they go to St. Lucia, there's no primary schools have guidance counselor.
Oh,
In Barbados, we have adopted something with the Sandy Lane Trust Fund
yes.
in terms of getting one counselor deal with 5
Different
schools,
schools, yes.
which is also challenging. But in every secondary school, there are at least 1 or 2 guidance counselors.
Yes.
And that should be, we have 2 schools with 2 guidance counselors.
Yes.
And how many?
3 schools.
3 now.
Okay.
So there's need for more, and a male and a female preferably,
Oh, yeah.
so they can interact and work together in dealing with some of the gender issues
Yes.
and so on. But, you know, some people don't feel like guidance counselors have to deal with gender issues.
Oh,
I've had some cases that those.
yeah, they don't know.
And the kind of challenges that those individuals face and how to instruct students and give guidance in terms of how to deal with people of different sexual orientation, even though you disagree with them.
Yes.
You know, your aim is not to be bullying or
judgmental.
discriminatory or
Right.
condescending look and so on. But they too need help.
Oh, yes.
They need guidance, as it were, and they're going to feel that they're being abused. So they need guidance, and the guidance counselor need to know how
To deal with it.
guide such students as
Yes.
well, because they are persons as well.
They are persons. Yes.
And Jackie, sorry. Also, I would suggest ongoing training for counselors.
Yes.
Every
Definitely.
year, counselors, or every 2 years, counselors should upgrade their skills in some way. And every counselor should be a mental health specialist.
Yes.
Should have some certification
I agree.
in
Mental health.
because that is, since COVID, that
Oh,
has
yes.
become much more pronounced.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
So we're not just there to train students, you know, guide students. Teachers may need
Teachers as
guidance.
well.
Yes.
Then we have at the university sending students to be trained by guidance counselors,
Yes.
especially the social work
workers.
program.
Yes.
And that comes in handy in
Yes.
terms of when they are there, what to assign to them. And so it eases our workload somewhat a little bit. But training university students, especially the social work program, and then there's need for peer counselor, because we can't reach all the weak ones,
Yes.
but we can strengthen the strong to help the weak.
To help the weak. Yes.
And in that way, you can make it broad-based, as it were. And all the career showcase planning, that's a lot of work by itself.
That's a lot of work.
And they talk to, you know, and you have to know what resources to be able to get in, especially when children are between the 3rd and going into 4th form.
Yes.
They need to start thinking about their
Thinking about
career
it, yes.
and the subjects they're going to do to achieve that career. And that is important.
Serious guidance there,
You have to have meeting with
yes.
the parents and let them help guide the children and cooperate with us.
Options, yeah.
Yeah.
Get the different ideas. All right. Wow. That's a lot. Counselors, we have a lot of work cut out for us. Not
Jackie,
Yes.
the parents, it has always been on my heart, but more so now especially. I don't think I wish we could get to the point where parents will have a day or some session where they could understand the pressure that their own children are placed under.
yes.
Because you have a lot of parents who are very dismissive of their children's feelings and what they might be going through. And they, to say, well, you don't have anything to worry about. You don't have to pay bills. You don't have to worry about children or whatever. But these children,
Indeed.
they are under a lot of pressure these days, especially those at the schools where you get that push for the academics more so.
Yes.
You have children who are saying, I am not coping. I am overwhelmed. I can't handle this. I can't. And they are actually having panic attacks.
Anxiety.
And when you say, but have you spoken to your they don't listen. Have you spoken to your parents about this? They don't listen. They just want to know that I get good grades and that's it. No, they're not interested in what I'm feeling because I'm not. And I wish we could get to a point where we could do a program or where parents would have to be involved in a program where they understand that they too need to provide that support at home for their children. Some children, they are under more pressure than others, but we have to be real and understand that children are people with feelings just like adults.
Yes.
And I think that that's where it all has to go as well, recognizing that, yes, these little people, as some people call them, they have feelings, they have some of the same pressures, and we need to take those pressures seriously. I know sometimes when you have the whole issue of young people committing suicide, you get a whole drive towards mental.
Yes, then everybody's
and
on
then
board.
everybody's talking about what everybody wants to do,
Yeah.
and then it dies down, and we forget that these children
Are still there.
are still under the pressure that you're placing them under, and you're not listening to hear their cries. You're not watching. You're not being vigilant to see. So I think that we really have to get parents more sensitive towards their children's wellness. I'm not saying that some aren't. I'm just saying that you see too many students under that pressure to do well. Some children as early as first form, what time do you get when you go home to just relax and watch a little TV? Nothing. Because when they leave school, they have to go to this activity, that activity, that. And then by the time I get home, I have to do homework. I have to do this. I have to do that. And I one day I sat and I asked the child, so what time do you find for yourself? She said, no, ma'am, nothing, ma'am. I don't know. I just, she's tired at first farm.
First farm,
And
wow.
she's tired.
But some people in primary school go through that.
Yes, definitely.
That setup.
Definitely.
Well, counselors, our time, we said we wouldn't even know when the time was gone.
That's right.
But our time for this discussion, well spent.
Yes, indeed.
We have unearthed some very, very good points, some good things that we have seen in our schools here in Barbados, and some tips on how to approach, how to how to help the children, how to help the teachers, how to help the parents, and even to help us as guidance counselors to get our schools to thrive. That's what our week our theme is looking at, we're getting stronger together. And I appreciate these facts that y'all have put forward. I recognize there's a wealth of information right here in front of me. Well, I got to keep track. Yes, because there's so many things that, and I think I knew them, but then it fall off the way. You know the things, but then you get so caught up in other things. And we need to look out for our children.
Well, one of the areas that I think that we really help in terms of schools to thrive in is that transition period from primary to secondary school.
Yes.
We do it all in our secondary schools, counselor.
Yes.
But there's also a program that we are part of called In the Winner's Circle.
Okay.
Under the patronage of Dr. Magistrate Barbara, Madam Justice Barbara Cook Aline.
Yes.
And that Winner's Circle engages counselors in dealing with the program started by Margaret on transitioning from primary to secondary school.
Yes.
And that has been going well over the past couple of years. All right, because it briefs the children on what to expect and how to handle certain challenges.
Yes.
And the kind of workload that will be thrust on them, different times, and the lunch preparation rather than buying lunch, all of that. It exposes children to sort of when they go into secondary school, they are more prepared to accept and deal with.
So we're going to have to do this weekly then. We can't do a yearly guidance counselors program. We're going to have to bring Margaret on for her transition program. We're going to have to bring Saul as well and I'm talking about weekly. I'm talking about this yearly thing, Saul. We are monthly, so that we can keep up this rapport and as many people as are listening now and hearing this information maybe didn't even know some of these things exist. And it's on us now to put it out there and to make sure that each child in our care and all the counselors' care are exposed to grabbing onto the opportunities and knowing that, hey, there is help. Parents need to know there is help. And that's why I'm happy to have the wealth of information that we would have had during this time here. I want to thank the counselors before me because this thing that here say retired and then retired when it done yet. Okay, Saul. Okay, Margaret. That's just that's official mambo jumbo. You got to still come and visit some schools and help. And help some of the new counselors. We have guidance counselors, we have school counselors, and that wealth of information that you all have, we need it. We need the encouragement. We need the avenues with which to still assist the children before us. So we want to thank you for your time this evening. We want to thank Madam President for being here. We hope that somebody out there listening would have had some insight, made some connection to recognize this is how we need to assist our students, our children, all of the people that we come into contact with, to be sure that they always have a thought. They always have a escape. They always have something that can assist them in making their lives better, or making someone that I'm connected with, assisting them in getting their lives better. So, stronger together, helping schools thrive. I think that was definitely seen here this evening. I feel stronger already. Oh, yes. I think about three of my children there just now. I see the faces going for them. Call the parents. Sometimes you fall off. Yeah. but I remember them this evening, thanks to some of the things that you said. And in every school, you're going to find a John, you're going to find Mary, you're going to find Tricia, you're going to find Patrick. Every school. It's not just my school or your school. All you have said has encouraged me. I hope it encouraged some of the persons listening online. And let's make sure that we can help all the schools in Barbados to thrive, one child at a time.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here with us. And I am encouraging Margaret to get out there near to the politicians and sell some of them things you talk about, because I like it. You understand? And I want Saul as well to, you can go be one of the politicians. You can represent me. Yes? And make sure that Chanel as well tags along, because she said she wasn't at school. She was at school when some of these things happen. We gotta drag along some of the young'uns. Right, Chanel? So, thank you again for being here. And it's good that we could have this connection this evening. So, thank you again, and do have a pleasant evening for all of those who were listening online.
Thank you.